Hello. Um, Hi. I just thought I'd do a quick stream today, won't be long, talking about the Call of Duty news coming to Nintendo for like a decade. If you're not entirely sure what I'm talking about, well, basically, earlier this morning, Phil Spencer tweeted out, he's the Microsoft CEO, head of gaming, not Microsoft CEO, Microsoft gaming CEO, what I should say. Yeah, he tweeted out this morning that Microsoft has entered into a 10-year commitment with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo. It's interesting, actually, that he kind of phrased it that way, because he didn't say he's bringing it to the Nintendo Switch. So I assume it's going to be whatever's next. So it's interesting to see, because Microsoft are obviously trying to get this Activision Blizzard deal over the line. And one of the things that is interesting about it is Sony are the ones kind of holding it up, because they obviously don't want to lose Call of Duty on PlayStation. So to kind of put those fears to rest, I guess, they're saying that, okay, well, we're going to make it available every Minecraft as well. So they've obviously put together this deal with Nintendo, and they're willing to do the same sort of deal with Sony, just to try and prove, I guess, that, they're not going to lock it and make it an Xbox exclusive. 10 years, that's a long time in gaming. A lot can happen in that time. Just kind of thinking about it now, it got me kind of thinking about, how Microsoft going into this agreement, it's obviously doing it to appease Sony, but also it's like, what happens if like the next Nintendo hardware is something completely wacky with a gimmick, which could well be, what ends up happening, because, Nintendo are known to throw the odd spanner in the works and have, I don't know, some weird gimmick that's really, really core to the console experience. And then Activision have said they're going to, well, not Activision, I guess, Microsoft have said they're going to bring Call of Duty to that platform, and then they have to kind of work out how to get Call of Duty working with, I don't know, a waggle touchscreen or whatever it is. Yeah, it's just interesting, because it's one of those things, really. I've just realised I've not got any comments up here for my live stream, so I don't know if anyone's saying anything. Oh, hey, there is actually. Hello, Sofa King in the comments. Thanks for dropping in. I'll be honest, I'm always against mergers, but if they are truthful and this may be a merger I am behind now, I would appreciate if they actually brought Cold War or Modern Warfare 2 to the Switch. That would be fantastic. On your first point about the mergers and being against it, yeah, there are obviously things to kind of talk about there in terms of the consolidation of these big media giants into one already big kind of conglomerate, I guess, is one way of looking at it. This one is far along enough now that I think it's likely to happen. It's getting a lot of attention and scrutiny from the likes of the CMA here in the UK, the Competition Markets Authority, I believe, and I think it's the FCA in the US. I might be wrong on that. It's getting a lot of attention in terms of whether they're actually going to happen or not. But Microsoft seems to be doing all the right things in terms of actually trying to want to make it succeed. Sony are being the barrier here. So the move here today to commit to 10 years on a Nintendo platform and on Steam, which they've also said as well in the kind of where are we? In the kind of follow-up tweet that Phil Spencer sent. Yeah, you can see here, he says, I'm also pleased to confirm that Microsoft are committed to continue to offer Call of Duty on Steam simultaneously to Xbox after we have closed the merger, which is the important thing to note here. Like, all of this is completely dependent on the merger actually going through. So they can say we're promising to bring Call of Duty to Switch for the next Nintendo for the next 10 years, but none of this happens if the merger doesn't actually go through. So it's curious, and my kind of whole thing about the we don't know what Nintendo's next hardware is going to be is really, really interesting. In terms of Call of Duty on Nintendo, it's actually been nearly a decade now since there was last a game on a Nintendo platform, a Call of Duty game on a Nintendo platform, and that was back in 2013, I want to say, on the Wii U. I think it was Call of Duty Ghosts. That was the last time we had a Call of Duty game on a Nintendo platform. So yeah, it's nearly been 10 years, which is kind of crazy to think about, I guess. But another thing about this kind of the whole Call of Duty thing with Nintendo is that it's something that I actually spotted today in the excellent Hit Points by Nathan Brown newsletter, which you should definitely go and subscribe to if you're not already. He was talking about how, obviously this thing from Microsoft is trying to push the deal along, but the kind of Nintendo one is a bit of an odd one, because like he says here, I'm not aware of any great clamour for Call of Duty games to return to Nintendo platforms. Yes, of course, admittedly, there are people who would like to see these games on that platform, but it's not the kind of thing where it's like with Persona, everybody wanted to see that come to the Switch. The appetite doesn't seem to be as strong for this one, that's for sure. But, I mean, I'm not going to complain. Yeah, sure, having these games on more platforms is always a good thing. But yeah, it's one of those things. I don't see it doing particularly well, he says, let alone driving hardware sales. I'm sure that given the choice of having it or having not, Nintendo would say, sure, go ahead, which I agree with. But I doubt the offer has sent many champagne corks are popping in Nintendo. Yeah, I can't imagine Nintendo are overly bothered, to be perfectly honest with you. It's one of those things where they're probably like, sure, it's a nice thing to have, but I can take it or leave it. So yeah, it's an odd one. I did think, I get why Microsoft are doing it, that they're doing it to try and get the deal across the line. But in terms of the appeal and the kind of desire for it across Nintendo platforms, I don't really think it's there. I wrote about this earlier today, actually, over on Overkill. And just kind of outlining how Microsoft commits to this basically to help get this deal across the line, because it has been held up now for, when was it even announced? It's got to be quite a while back now. So yeah, we shall see in terms of whether it'll happen or not. But it does seem to be that Sony are the ones holding it back. And Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, has said here that any day Sony that wants to actually sit down and talk about it, we're happy to hammer out a deal, just as they have done with Nintendo. So we shall see. Sofa King in the comments saying that, yeah, I'm in the mind that I want every game on the Switch, unless it's a cloud version, then don't bother. Yeah, I kind of agree with your points about cloud versions. Can take it or leave those, for sure. What is Overkill? It is a website talking about the future of games that I am set up with my good buddy Kevin, and we talk about kind of VR and AR, futuristic handheld, and just kind of what we assume is like the future of gaming. So yeah, that's here we go. Look, future gaming including handheld devices like the Steam, cloud services like Xbox Cloud Streaming, and VR AR experiences, which you probably can't see. My face is probably covering the text there, so I'll move it up there. So handheld devices like the Steam Deck and the Switch and stuff like that. Yeah, and there's Kevin in the comments, look. So there you go. So yeah, that was just kind of my immediate thought on this whole kind of Call of Duty on Nintendo thing. And I think the kind of amusing part of it really is just how it could be one of those things where Nintendo end up announcing like not a Switch 2, which we all want, or like a Switch Pro, which they're not going to call, but they come out with this completely new console, which is, I don't know, called the, I'm not even going to attempt some stupid name because who knows. But yeah, it could have some really core central gimmick, and then Call of Duty's like, what do we do? How do we make that work? That's just an alternative timeline in my head, which I thought would be amusing. I think I'm probably going to stop there unless there's any other questions. Like you say, Sofa King in the comments, I think we'll actually get a new console and not a new Switch. It's likely. I would like them to just kind of carry on with the Switch line because they've got a good thing going. The backwards compatibility is really important, obviously, but it's not beyond Nintendo to break those things and just move on in the search of a new kind of innovative input method, I guess, is one way of looking at it. So I'll leave it there. But Call of Duty on Switch, would you be playing it? I don't know, there's better places to play these sort of things, isn't there? But I'd be happy to see it all the same. So, I think that's going to be it. I'm going to end the stream. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.